to tell you. You can't just leave parts piled like this.
Sorry, ma'am. It was one order. I was fixing it right now.
No excuses. This is unacceptable. See? Look at this.
The CCTV camera, mounted high in the corner of the assembly line, blinked with its tiny red light, recording everything. No one paid much attention to it. Not the workers, not the supervisors, not even the woman who would soon regret underestimating it. Before we dive in, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country or state in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because what's coming next is absolutely unbelievable, and you won't want to miss stories like this. Let's continue. Her name was Martha Linton, the factory's production manager. A strict, middle-aged woman with a clipped tone, pressed uniform, and a permanent scowl etched across her face. To the corporate office, she was a no-nonsense leader. But to the people on the floor, especially those who didn't look like her, Martha was something else entirely. Danielle had been working there for 6 months. Quiet, hardworking, the kind of employee who stayed late without complaint. She wasn't loud, she didn't gossip, she just did her job and went home. But somehow, that wasn't enough for Martha. It started small, a raised eyebrow here, a sarcastic comment there. Little moments that other people ignored, but Danielle couldn't forget. When she greeted her manager with a polite, "Good morning," Martha would glance past her like she wasn't there. When she offered ideas in team meetings, Martha would cut her off mid-sentence. Still, Danielle tried to shrug it off. She needed the job. Her little sister was in college, and rent wasn't cheap. That morning, she arrived early as always. She tied her hair into a bun, slipped on her gloves, and took her place by the sorting table. The camera timestamp flickered. 07:41:03 a.m., factory cam 03. By 8:10, Martha was already pacing the floor with her clipboard. Her eyes darted over every station, looking for mistakes. "Boxes too light, tape not sealed. That's waste," she barked, her voice slicing through the noise. Danielle's hands worked fast, her movements precise. But the glue gun she used began sputtering, half clogged from dried adhesive. She raised her hand slightly. Miss Linton? I think this one's acting up again. The glue's not coming out right." Martha turned sharply, the sound of her heels clicking against the concrete. She approached Danielle's station, her jaw tight. "Are you saying my maintenance team doesn't do their job?" Danielle shook her head. "No, ma'am, I just think—" "Then fix it. It's not rocket science." A few nearby workers exchanged glances, but stayed silent. No one ever challenged Martha. Danielle wiped her hands, unplugged the gun, and tried to clean the nozzle. Glue dripped onto her gloves, sticking her fingers together. She laughed nervously under her breath, embarrassed. That small laugh, that moment of nervous relief, was all it took to set Martha off. "Oh, you think this is funny?" she hissed. "You're wasting company time, laughing while everyone else works?" Danielle froze. The color drained from her face. I didn't mean," but Martha had already turned toward the nearby workers. "See this? This is what happens when people think the rules don't apply to them." Her tone was loud enough for half the floor to hear. Heads turned. The air grew thick with awkward tension. Danielle wanted to sink into the ground. She could feel every eye on her. "I'm sorry, Miss Linton. I'll get it done," she murmured, trying to steady her hands. But Martha wasn't done. She stepped closer, invading Danielle's space, her voice sharp and venomous. "You people always have an excuse," she muttered, not even trying to lower her voice. Danielle's breath caught. "You people." It wasn't the first time Martha had said something like that. Never this loud. Never in front of everyone. The camera above tilted slightly, capturing Martha's face. The cold, twisted smirk of someone who enjoyed control. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Even the machines seemed quieter. Then, without warning, Martha reached for one of the boxes on Danielle's table and slammed it to the floor. Cardboard and packaging material scattered everywhere. "This is garbage. You can't even seal a box right." Danielle flinched at the noise, her eyes glistening. I hadn't... Don't talk back to me." Her voice cut like a whip. The factory doors opened at the far end. A few late workers walked in, stopping as they saw the scene. "Everyone, take a good look. This is what happens when someone doesn't take pride in their work." Someone near the assembly line quietly raised their phone, pretending to check messages, but actually recording. Another camera, unseen, kept its steady gaze. The factory's own CCTV. Danielle's throat tightened. "Please, Miss Linton, I didn't do anything wrong." But Martha's expression hardened even more. "If you can't handle basic tasks, maybe this isn't the job for you." That sentence echoed through the air like a gunshot. Danielle nodded slowly, blinking fast to hold back tears. "Yes, ma'am," she whispered. She crouched to pick up the fallen boxes, her gloves sticky with glue and dust. Each breath felt heavier than the last. Around her, the factory buzz returned. Whispers, sidelong glances, the quiet murmurs of people pretending to work while witnessing cruelty. The camera timestamp blinked again. 08:17:29 a.m. For the next hour, Danielle worked silently. She didn't look up once. But something inside her had broken. Not just her pride, but her sense of safety. Then came the final blow. Around 9:30 a.m., one of the supervisors brought over a cart stacked with finished boxes. "Hey, we're short on labels. Can you print a new set?" he asked Danielle politely. Before she could respond, Martha appeared again like a shadow. No, she's done enough damage for one day." "She was just helping," the supervisor began. "I said she's done." The room fell silent again. Danielle swallowed hard. I can do it. I'll just... Enough." Martha slammed her clipboard on the table. "You're not listening." Then, with a cold sneer, she leaned in and said, "I don't know how you people get hired here, but I'm done babysitting." That was it. The final insult. The one that made a few workers actually stop working. Danielle's hands trembled. She felt heat rush to her face. Not just anger, but humiliation so deep it made her chest ache. She turned off her station quietly, untied her apron, and placed it on the table. "I think I'll just clock out," she said softly. Martha crossed her arms. "Good idea. Don't bother coming back until you learn some respect." Danielle didn't answer. She just walked away. The camera followed her with its mechanical sweep, her shoulders slightly hunched, her gloves still stained with glue, her head held just high enough to hide the tears. As she walked past the lockers, someone whispered, "That was messed up." Another worker muttered, "She always does this, man. Someone's got to say something." Danielle reached the exit, pushing open the heavy metal door. Cold morning air hit her face. She took a deep breath that trembled with pain. Behind her, the camera captured Martha turning toward the others, muttering under her breath, still unaware that everything she just said, every cruel word, every insult, had been caught clearly on tape. The timestamp read 09:34:12 a.m. Outside, Danielle leaned against the brick wall, staring at the sky. She didn't cry right away, not until she pulled out her phone and saw a message from her little sister. "Hey, Danny, how's work today? You okay?" That's when the first tear fell. She typed back slowly, "Not really." Inside, the factory continued like nothing had happened. But in the control room upstairs, a man in a gray shirt leaned toward the monitor, replaying the footage from camera 03. He frowned. Then he hit save. The screen flickered to black and white as the timestamp rolled forward. 12:46:22 p.m. Factory Cam 03. It had been just over 3 hours since Danielle walked out. The rest of the day dragged on like nothing happened. Workers avoided eye contact, whispering quietly when Martha passed. She moved with her usual stiffness, chin high, lips pursed, as if she hadn't just torn someone apart in front of everyone. But upstairs in the security booth, Cal, the night shift technician who covered for mornings that week, had seen it all. He wasn't the kind to get involved in management drama. His job was simple: monitor cameras, store footage, report technical issues. But what he'd seen that morning stuck in his mind like a splinter. He leaned back in his chair, watching the replay again. Martha's face twisted in anger, Danielle shrinking under the weight of her words. When he heard her say, "You people," something inside him clenched. He paused the tape, rewound it, played it again. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't out of context. Cal stared at the monitor for a long moment, then quietly pulled a USB stick from his pocket. He hesitated. Then, without another thought, he inserted it into the computer and hit copy footage. The next morning, Danielle didn't show up for work. Her station sat empty, the gloves she left behind still hanging on a hook by her machine. Martha walked past without a glance. "Good," she muttered under her breath. "We don't need distractions." But the air in the factory was different. Workers talked in hushed tones. A few phones buzzed, screens lighting up with notifications. Something was spreading. A whisper at first, then a wildfire. By noon, it wasn't just a rumor, it was everywhere. Someone had uploaded the CCTV clip to social media. A full minute and 40 seconds of unedited footage showing Martha berating Danielle, slamming boxes, and spitting out that hateful phrase. The caption read, "Factory manager bullies black employee. Watch how she treats her." It exploded online within hours. The video had all the makings of viral outrage: a clear face, a visible timestamp, the shocking phrase, "You people," and the unmistakable cruelty in Martha's tone. The internet didn't need context. They saw enough to understand. On Twitter, comments poured in. "This made my blood boil. Fire her immediately. That poor woman deserves justice. Someone get her a lawyer." By 3 p.m., local news stations had picked it up. Reporters parked outside the factory gates, microphones ready. Workers watched from the windows, whispering. Inside, Martha was called into the office by the regional director. She walked in confidently, assuming it was about production quotas or scheduling, but the look on his face stopped her cold. He turned his monitor toward her, the video already paused at the moment she sneered, "You people always have an excuse." "Is this you?" he asked flatly. Martha's lips parted, her face flushing red. That's taken out of context. You know how these cameras make things look." He didn't respond. He just pressed play. Her voice filled the room, every insult, every cruel jab. The sound of the box hitting the floor echoed like thunder in the silence. When it ended, the director leaned back, disappointment written all over his face. "Do you have any idea what this has done to us?" he said quietly. "This video is everywhere. We've received over 200 emails demanding your termination, and that's just since lunch." Martha's hands shook. But she was disrespectful. I was correcting her." He sighed. "No, you humiliated her. On camera." Her face hardened again, but the confidence was gone. "You're suspended, effective immediately," he said, sliding a paper across the table. "We'll be conducting a full investigation."
Martha stared down at the document, her jaw trembling. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Outside the factory, news crews gathered near the parking lot where employees were clocking out. Reporters waved microphones, asking if anyone had seen the confrontation. Most stayed silent, but one young man, the same worker who'd secretly recorded on his phone, quietly said, "She didn't deserve what happened to her. Danielle's one of the hardest workers here." The clip aired that evening on the 6 o'clock news. Danielle's name wasn't mentioned, but her face, tearful and humiliated, was blurred over the CCTV still. The story headline read, "Viral factory video sparks outrage over racist workplace behavior." That night, Danielle sat alone in her small apartment, the TV flickering faintly against the wall. She hadn't watched the video yet, couldn't bring herself to. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Friends, co-workers, even strangers sending messages of support. One text stood out from an unknown number. "Hey Danielle, I'm Cal. I work in security at Crestline. I just wanted to say, I saw what happened. You didn't deserve any of that. I'm sorry." She stared at the message for a long moment before replying, "Thank you. I thought no one noticed." He replied almost instantly, "We noticed. The whole world does now." She didn't know whether to cry or smile, maybe both. By morning, the video had hit 2.4 million views. The factory's phone lines flooded with calls. Some were reporters, others were furious customers demanding accountability. Hashtags trended. Hashtag justice for Danielle. Hashtag factory racism. Hashtag do better Crestline. The company released a statement. "We are aware of the incident involving one of our managers and an employee. We have zero tolerance for discrimination of any kind. The individual involved has been suspended pending investigation." But the internet wasn't satisfied. People wanted faces, names, and consequences. And while Martha sat in her car outside the plant, scrolling through her phone in disbelief, the full weight of her actions began to sink in. Her voicemail was full, her inbox flooded with angry messages. Her face, once known only in one small industrial town, was now recognizable across the country. A knock on her car window made her jump. It was the regional director again. "Martha," he said, his tone firm, "you need to go home. HR will contact you." She opened her mouth to argue, but stopped. For the first time, she saw the reflection of herself in the window, red-eyed, trembling, and defeated. Without another word, she started the car and drove off. Meanwhile, Danielle sat at her kitchen table, sipping cold coffee. The sound of her phone notifications filled the quiet room. There were messages from strangers offering jobs, words of encouragement, even offers to crowdfund her legal fees if she wanted to sue. But none of that erased what she felt, that deep aching wound of being humiliated for something she couldn't change. She opened her phone and, for the first time, watched the video. Her breath hitched as she saw herself on the screen, small, nervous, trying to explain, while Martha towered over her. When she heard, "You people," she flinched again, even knowing what was coming. By the time the video ended, tears had already blurred her vision. She placed the phone face down, pressing her hands together. All she could whisper was, "Why me?" Moments later, her phone buzzed again. It was her little sister, calling from college. "Danny, I just saw the video! Oh my God, are you okay?" Danielle took a shaky breath.
Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired. You didn't deserve that. No one does. Everyone's talking about it. People are behind you. Danielle smiled faintly through her tears. I know. She glanced toward her window, sunlight spilling in, warm and soft. For the first time in days, she didn't feel completely powerless. The whole world had seen what she went through, and this time, she wasn't invisible. Later that week, a small update appeared on social media. Crestline Packaging confirms termination of manager involved in viral racism incident. The post was brief, corporate, emotionless, but for Danielle, it meant everything. She didn't post about it, she didn't gloat or celebrate, she just closed her phone, exhaled deeply, and let the silence fill the room. Outside, the world moved on. But somewhere inside that massive industrial complex, one empty workstation remained, a quiet reminder of what happens when cruelty meets a camera lens. The timestamp on that final piece of footage read 09:34:12 a.m. The same moment Danielle had walked out, eyes red, gloves sticky with glue, carrying the weight of words she'd never forget. It was the moment the story ended for her and began for everyone else. Subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos.